Well, good day, folk. Welcome to another wonderful, exciting episode of Mathematical Literacy. Now, this particular episode is going to be quite interesting because what we've decided to call this episode is Mixed Exam Questions. And what we're going to do is we are going to focus in this section on little tricks that examiners could be giving in an exam question at the end of the year. So basically, we're going to be looking at primarily paper 2 type questions, which can be asked in such a way that they could be kind of tricky. But we're going to practice some of them. Okay, so what do we have to be able to know? Make sure that you know the format of the exam papers, right? What do we mean by the format of the exam papers? Guys, you're writing 2 papers. You're writing a paper 1, you're writing a paper 2. Paper 1 is a skills-based paper, okay? So we're just checking, do you know how to do basic skills? And that paper is primarily level 1, level 2 type questions. And the format of that paper, question 1 will be on one topic. Question 2 will be on another topic. Question 3 on the third topic. Question 4 on the fourth topic. And then you get a question 5 which mixes up the topics in one question. Okay? That's paper 1. Paper 2, what we have is we have an application paper, which is your tough paper. All your level 3 and level 4 type questions, okay? And all the questions, whether they be 4, 5, or 6 questions in that exam, they're all mixed with the topics, okay? So there won't just be a question 1 all on finance. It might have a bit of finance, a bit of map work, a bit of measurement, okay? All thrown into one question. So make sure you know the format of the exam papers. Manage your time when answering the questions. Now, I always say this to my students, especially with paper 2. During your reading time, okay, when you read through the questions, first thing I say to my guys, with paper 2, use your nail, because you're not allowed to have a pen during that reading time. Use your nail, okay, and quickly add up the marks until you get to 50. And mark that paper with your nail so that you know when you get to that point, up to those 50 marks, an hour should have gone past. If you get up there and an hour and a half's gone past, you're in trouble. You need to speed up. Okay? If you get to that mark and only 20 minutes has gone past, either A, you've made a huge error and you've messed up the question, or B, you're speeding along far too quickly. Slow down. Check your work. Okay. Always use your calculator. That's a favorite of mine. Okay? And I always say to my students, always use your calculator. I always use mine because I'm always making silly mistakes and my brain is too tiny to calculate big numbers. Okay? So use your calculator. Read the questions carefully and check that you've answered the question. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but so many people don't answer the question. So we might say, would my first fit into this hole? Okay, prove it. And then they do all the calculations and stop. But if the question says, does my fit into the hole, I've got to do the calculation and then conclude and say, therefore, my fist does not fit into the hole, or my fist does fit into the hole. So answer the question. And then another thing which I haven't got down here, but I think is crucial, is check your rounding. Have I rounded correctly and have I rounded appropriately? Now, normally it says round to 2 decimal places, but sometimes, guys, we can't round off. So, for example, if I had to say to you, how many men is it going to take to build a wall? You can't have 2,15 men, because you can't have 0.15 of a man, okay? So you would have to say, well, if I've got 2 men, I'm not going to finish the wall. So I'm going to have 3 men, okay? And that's what we call appropriate rounding. Right, I've spoken enough. Let's get on with the very first question. Our first question's got a little bit to do with data, Okay? Now we know that normally in data we ask to calculate the mean, the mode, the median. Look at this question. It's a little bit different. Okay? The following results were recorded from a maths lit test. The test was out of 30. The marks were 29, 28, 27, 28, 17, 14, 23, 19, 23, and then another mark. The teacher calculated the mean average to be 22. Okay, so the mean is 22. When handing the test back to the students, the teacher realized he'd lost one. However, knowing the average was 22, the teacher was able to calculate the other mark, or in this case, the value of the mark. What is this mark? Give your answer as a percentage. All right. Now, a few tricks here. Number one, for the first time we're coming across a problem where we're given the mean, but there's a value missing. Normally we're given all the values and are asked to calculate the mean. This is a little bit different. The second little trick in this question is this, that the test we told is out of 30, but the question then says give your answer as a percentage. So let's forget about the percentage for now and let's look at the question. Now, if you were to look at a question like this, okay, and you'd never seen anything like this before, you'd freak out. And you would say, oh my giddy aunt, what do I do? Well, don't freak out, just be calm. The question's asking about to do with the mean. So let me write this formula out. I know that the mean is equal to what? Is equal to my total over the number of tests. Okay, so the total of the tests over the number of the tests. Now, do I know what the total of the tests is? Do I know what the mean is? Do I know the number of tests? Well, let's have a look at it. My total of the tests is going to be all these figures over here. So I'm going to say it's going to be 29 plus 28 plus 27 plus everything else plus A. All over the number of tests. How many tests were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There were 10 tests. Remember, the missing test is still one of those tests. We can't pretend there are only 9 now, otherwise that one student's going to go, sir, you've forgotten about me. Don't worry, you're not a student, you're not important. Rubbish, he is important. He's one of the 10 students in the class. So I'm going to add up my total divided by 10. But in this specific question, I'm told what the mean is. What was the mean? We told it was 22. So I know the mean is 22. So far, I've got 22 is equal to. Now we're going to add up all those marks. And I say we, but I smile to myself because we is not going to do it. Calculator's going to do it. All right, so let's go for it. So I'm going to say I have got 29. To that, I'm going to add 28. To that, I'm going to add 27. To that, I'm going to add another 28. Sorry, let's just get rid of that, the 28, okay. To that, I'm going to add 17 and 14 and 23 and 19 and one more, and what's the other one? The other one is 23 as well. Okay. Now guys, I would normally add the A, but obviously I can't add A's and numbers. So my answer is 208 plus A over 10. Okay. So what am I now going to do? I'm now going to say, right, I want to find out what is the value of A. What is the A by itself? So let's get rid of all those other numbers until I have A standing by itself. So here it is. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 10 across. Okay? How do I get rid of this 10? If I multiply this side by 10, then my 10s disappear. And remember, what I do on one side of the equal side, I've got to do on the other. So I'm going to multiply that 22 by 10. So I'm going to land up with 220 is equal to 208 plus A. How do I get rid of this 208? Minus 208. Then it disappears. What I do to one side, do to the other. So I'm going to subtract 208. And what do I land up with? I land up that A is 12. A is 12 what? A is 12 out of 30. So if we write that up, we get 12 out of 30. Okay? But the question, and this comes back to what I said originally, make sure you've answered the question. And what did the question say? Let's read it. It says quite clearly, give your answer as a percentage. So we know this 10th little kid here, who the teacher lost his script totally, okay? But the teacher's been able to calculate this guy actually got 12 out of 30 for the test. So 12 out of 30, what's that as a percent? To calculate as a percent, we multiply by 100. Okay, so I'm going to say, cool, we got 12 over 30, multiply that by 100, and we land up with an answer of 40%. So the guy lands up with 40%. The real paper 2 type question, hey? Normally you're asked to calculate the mean. This question, they give you the mean and they ask you to calculate that missing value. Oh, horrible question, but something you could find in your paper 2. Okay, let's have a look at another question. The mean average for a class test was 36% for the 15 students who wrote the test. There was a 16th student who was absent, and he only wrote the test the following day. The teacher wants the class average to be 50%. What must that 16th student get for his test in order for the class average to move from 36% to 50%? Give your answer to the appropriate percentage. Okay. Now, this kind of question catches students all the time because students say, this is so easy. We've got 36%. We wanted to get to 50%. Okay. So all the students got to do is get another 14% and we got it to 50. Wrong. Okay. The class average, if I'm finding out the mean, how do I calculate that mean? I take the mean, right, and I add up every one of the kids' marks and divide by the number of kids. So I'm going to start off by writing that formula down just to guide us here. We're going to say the mean is the total, okay, right, divided by the number of students we have. Now, what does the teacher want? The teacher wants 50%. So we're going to aim at getting the mean 50%. So let's change the mean to 50%. Right. We told that the class average is 36%. In other words, what is the mean? The mean is saying if I were to take everybody's marks, okay, and find the mean, in other words, find out what one mark represents that whole class. What do I mean by that? Let's have a look here. Let's say I've got a class who's got a mark of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So one person got 1, one person got 2, one person got 3, one got 4, one got 5. And I'll say to you, what is the mean for that class? Right. Now the mean is going to be my total divided by the number of students I have. So let's have a look at that quickly. So I'm going to say if I find the total, 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15. So that's the total. Divide that by 5 kids. My average for my class is 3. In other words, if I were to give every kid in that class 1 mark to symbolize the average, I could say every kid got 3. 3, 3, 3, 3. How do I get that? Well, if I add, I'm also going to get 15. Look here, these totals are the same. If I divide that by 5, I also get 3. So if I were to say all these kids have got different marks, but what one mark is a representation of that whole class, in this case, it would be 3. Now, in our questions case, what is it? It is 36. So we're saying the one mark that represents or symbolizes everybody's mark in the class is 36. How many students did I have in the class? Okay, I had 15 who wrote the test. So I've got 36 plus 36 plus 36 plus 36 15 times. Or I can say it's the same as 36 times 15, because there are 15 students who got that 36. But now we're adding another student, okay? So I'm going to say plus another student. So how many students will there be in total? This is an S, not a 5, okay? How many students are there in total? The 15 who wrote, plus the one who still got to write. So there are 16 students in total. Agreed? Okay. So we now want to get S by itself. I've got 50 is equal to, what is 36 times 15? Again, my calculator is going to do this for me. 36 times 15, and I get an answer of 540. Plus S is equal to, over 16 is equal to 50. We want the S by itself, right? Let's get rid of the 16. How do I get rid of the 16? If I multiply that side by 16, I'll get rid of the 16. I'm going to multiply this side by 16. Again, out comes our calculator that's going to do the work for us. And we're going to say I've got 50 multiplied by 16 equals, and I get 800. 800 equals 540 plus the other student. The student now has got to get 800. How do we get rid of the 540 that side? Subtracted that side, subtracted this side, 540. So 800 minus 540 gives me an answer of 260. So this student, if the teacher wants to get its average from 36 to 50%, this student has to get 260%. Next question. Is it possible for the class average to get to 50%? No way. Why? Because you cannot get more than 100% for a test. And this student's got to get 260%. That's a lot of pressure on the student. He's never going to get it. That class average will never be 50%. Sure. Different way of looking at a mean type of question. Okay. And rather ironic, I say mean. I mean mean average, but it's just a mean question. Right. And on that note, let's take a break and we'll come back and look at some more mean questions. Welcome back, folk. We're looking at mean questions in this episode today. All right. Really horrible type of questions that could come up in an exam. Kind of questions that you only find in a paper too, and you only find them if the examiner's in a really bad mood when he set the paper. Okay, let's have a look at this. Third question of the day. An article of clothing was charged at 269 Rand and 90 cents, including the 14% VAT. However, the teller had forgotten to take off the advertised 25% off the actual cost, not the VAT price. How much should the customer have been charged, including VAT, for the clothing? Oh, that's a lot of English. Okay, let me sum it up for you. So someone goes off and they buy some clothing, right? And they get home and they realize they've been charged 269 Rand and 90 cents, right? With the VAT. They then say, hey, hold on, I was supposed to get a 25% discount on this amount. right? So I'm going back to the shop and I want them to rectify it. Now, it's not that easy. We can't just take the 269 Rand and 90 cents and take off 25% discount. Why not? Because the 25% discount is on the price of the clothing, not on the VAT. You cannot give anyone discount on VAT. The tax man is going to be very irritated if some shop suddenly says, you know what, you don't have to pay 14% VAT, let's just change it. We'll give you a discount, you pay 5%. Okay? We can't do that. Right. So, first thing is this. Our clothing, whatever it is, costs 269 Rand and 90 cents. But that included the VAT. So let's take the VAT off those clothing first of all, right? So we're not going to include the VAT. Now, how do we calculate the price when we take the VAT off? Well, let's look at it this way. What do we do if we're adding VAT? If I've got a bit of clothing and I'm going to add VAT, I'm going to multiply that clothing by this, 114 over 100, okay? So if something costs 50 Rand, I want to add VAT, I'm going to say 50 Rand times 114 over 100. Let's do that. I'll say 50 Rand times 114 over 100. Let's take out our calculator and let's do that sum straight away. Here it is, 50 Rand multiplied by 114 over 100. It's the same thing as saying let's find 14% of 50 Rand, get an answer, and then add 50 Rand. This is just a lot quicker. We say 114 over 100 equals, and there's my answer there, 57 Rand. So you could have said, what's 14% of 50? Landed up getting 7 Rand, then taken 50 Rand and added to the 7 Rand and got your 57 Rand. But I love this fraction, 114 over 100. It's a wonderful fraction because it's really, really so helpful. And it's helpful especially when we look at the following. When we now got to take the VAT off. When we added VAT, we multiplied by 114 over 100. When we take the VAT off, we want to know what was the price before the VAT. So the answer is going to be smaller, isn't it? So we're going to still use 114 and 100, but this time we're going to use 100 over 114 because our price is going to get smaller, so we're going to put the smaller number on top. So 269 Rand 90 multiplied by 100 over 114. And folk, you cannot, and this is what so many matrics do, you cannot find 14% of 269.90 because the VAT wasn't put on the 269.90, it was put on an amount before that which got you to 269.90. So never find 14% of 269.90 and then subtract it. That's what so many matrics do and where so many matrics go wrong. So there it is, times 100 over 114. So out comes our calculator again, and we're going to say, right, I have got, and hopefully our calculator will do this for us. Yeah, here we go. 269.90 multiplied by 100 over 114 equals, and here we get an answer of 236 Rand 75 cents. 236 Rand and 75 cents. So that's how much the clothing cost before the VAT was added. But now we're going to take the price of this clothing and we're going to subtract 25% off it. Okay? In other words, what we're actually doing is we are going to say, let's take this 236 Rand 75. We're going to find 25% of that and get an answer. Then we're going to say, right, 236 and 75, and we're going to subtract that answer. So out comes our calculator, and we're going to say we got 236.75. Let's just do that here. 236 and 75 cents. Cool. And we're going to find 25% of it. 25% or 25 over 100 equals, and we get an answer of 59 Rand 19 cents. 59 Rand 19 cents. That's the discount on the clothes. So let's subtract 59 Rand and 19 cents equals. So out comes the calculator again, and we say we've got 236 Rand and 75 cents. From that, we're subtracting our 59 Rand and how much was it? 19 cents. Oops, let's just get a decimal point here. And 19 cents. And we get an answer then of 177 Rand 56 cents. Now, folks, that's the price after we've taken the discount off. So we've got the 177 Rand 56 cents. That's what we're charging the customer. Hold on, says the tax man. You still got to add my VAT to that now. So remember, we started with the price. We took the VAT off. We then gave the discount only on the clothes. Now we got to put the VAT back. But the VAT is going to be less than what it originally was. Why? Because we're now finding 14% of 177 Rand 56 and not of the original 236 Rand. Okay, so we've got our 177 Rand 56. We're going to add the VAT, and remember we're using this wonderful new fraction, 114 over 100. So we're saying times 114 over 100. And we get an answer of 202 Rand 42 cents. So that's quite a complicated question. Guys, I'd advise that you go to our website, find this clip on your website, right? And then play it over and over again until you understand this concept completely. Okay, let's have a look at our next tricky, horrible question. Here it is. On exchanging money, an exchange bureau charges commission as follows. They charge 6.5% on every exchange with a minimum charge of 45 Rand. This charge excludes 14% VAT on this commission. How many US dollars will a person get if he exchanges 2,000 Rand? Okay, and we're told that the exchange rate is 6 Rand 95 to the dollar. Obviously, this question is a very old question because the current rate is around about 12 Rand, 11 Rand 80, somewhere around there. Okay, how nice it would be if the dollar was only worth 6 Rand 95. Right, nevertheless, let's work this out. So we've got 2,000 Rand and we want to go and exchange it. So we take our 2,000 Rand and we say, right, sir, I need to know how much are you going to charge me, right, for this 2,000 Rand. Okay, so here we go. The exchange rate is 2,000 Rand. So I've got 2,000 Rand and I'm going to multiply it by 6 Rand 95. So out comes my calculator and I say, cool, I've got 2,000 Rand. Okay. And I'm not going to multiply, I'm going to divide. Why am I dividing? Because I'm going to get less dollars, right? My dollars are worth more, so I'm going to get less dollars, right? If I was changing dollars to rands, I would then multiply. So we're going to divide that now by 6 Rand 95. And we get an answer of 287.77. So 287.77 what? Dollars. Now the next question is going to be, what is our exchange rate going to be? So how much are they going to charge me for this 2,000 Rand? All right, folks, so let's have a look at it. I'm in charge 6.5% exchange rate. So I'm going to say, right, 2,000 Rand, and they're going to charge me 6.5%. Out comes my calculator, and I say, right, 2,000 Rand multiplied by 6.5%, or 6.5 over 100, and I get an answer now of 130 Rand. So the exchange people are going to say, not only do you give us 2,000 Rand, but you've got to give us another 130 Rand because we're charging you costs for exchanging this money for us. Okay, so now I'm hearing you, and you're probably sitting at home saying, what's hard about that? We can all do it. Well, let's have a look at this next question. The next question says this: how many Rand were exchanged for US dollars if the commission fee, including the VAT, amounted to 270 Rand 47 cents? So now we're giving you the commission and we're saying, you work out how much was changed. I bet you've never come across a question like this. Now remember that this 270 Rand 47 includes the 14% VAT. Let's get rid of that VAT. Okay? Let's get rid of the VAT first, because that's not part of our costs or not part of the money that the exchange people are getting. They're giving that 14% to their tax man. So let's get rid of that 14%. Now we've just done one like that. How do we get rid of that 14%? We multiply by 100 over 114. Agreed? Okay? So we're going to say I've got 270 Rand and 47 cents. Oops, let's get rid of that, sorry, 0.47. And we're going to multiply it now by 100 over 114. And we get an answer here of 237 Rand 25 cents. So folk, although they say, listen, the commission is 270 Rand and 47 cents, it's actually not, because that included the VAT. When you take the VAT off, the amount that the actual exchange people are getting is only this 237 Rand and 25 cents. Okay? Now, that is the commission. And we said that the commission is what? It was 6.5%. So it's 6.5% of the amount of money we're exchanging. We don't know how much we're exchanging, but what we do know is we know what the commission is. And what is the commission? It's 237 Rand 25 cents. And that is equal to 6.5% of whatever that amount is. We want to know, what is that amount? How do I get that A by itself, right? I've multiplied by 6.5 over 100, take it across, and let's divide it by 6.5 over 100. So out comes our calculator, and we're going to say, right, we've got an amount of 237 Rand and 25 cents. We are going to divide that by 6.5 over 100. And we're going to get an answer of 3,650. So 3,650 Rand was the amount of money that we actually exchanged. This is tough, eh? This is really, really, really tough stuff. Again, I would advise, go to our website, find this clip of this episode on our website, right? And then look through it and keep rewinding and watching, rewinding and watching. Okay, let's have a look at another question quickly. Question number 5. A company gets hired to complete a paint job. The time the job takes depends on the number of painters. Complete the table below by filling in the missing values. Now, this is a lovely question. It comes up quite a lot, and it always catches out our matrics, okay? Because we're so used to having a graph that's a straight line up like that, that suddenly we land up with a different type of graph, and it kind of throws our students in a big way. Let's have a look at this. I've got the number of painters and the number of hours. Now, I want you to think about something. Let's say that we decided to paint this back screen. All right, lovely screen behind, but let's pretend you don't like it, right? And you say, Pete, paint the screen. So I say, all right, let me do it. So I come with a bucket of paint and I begin painting, right? And it takes me a whole hour, because I'm a slow painter, takes me a whole hour just to paint the screen. Then my boss comes to me and says, hey, you got to paint it again, we don't like it. But this time, we're bringing in some help. You've got another person. So there are two of you painting. Hey, this is cool. So my buddy gets a paintbrush, I've got a paintbrush, and away we go, painting. Now, when I did it by myself, it took me an hour. Now that I've got a buddy, is it going to take me quicker or is it going to take me longer? It's going to take me quicker, isn't it? So as I get more painters, so the time is going to get a lot less. Wouldn't you agree? So let's have a look. If there are three painters each take, or three painters, it takes them 100 hours to do that job, okay? How many man hours are there? In other words, if this guy takes 100 hours, this guy takes 100 hours, and this guy takes 100 hours, we've got 300 hours worth of work that had to be done. Let's write that down, okay? So we've got 300 hours worth of work to be done. Because there were three people doing it, they only spent 100 hours each. But what happens if one guy had to do that job alone? How many hours would it take him? It would take him 300 hours. It would take him 3 times as long, not 3 times less. And that's where matrics tend to make a big mistake with this type of question. So if I've got one painter, it's going to take me 300 hours. How many painters do I need if it's going to take me 60 hours? Well, if I got 5 painters and each one spends 60 hours, they would have completed the 300 hours worth of work, okay? How many hours would it take if 6 painters did the job? Well, if I said, and let's do it on our calculator, if I said, well, I've got 300 hours worth of work to do, and I'm going to get 6 guys to paint it, then each guy is only going to need to do 50 hours worth of work. So I'm going to need 50 hours worth of work for 6 painters. If I had 10 painters, each painter would only take 300 hours. Okay, nice question, eh? But a trick one that gets students every single time in matric. Let's have a look at this question. This question says, draw a rough sketch of a graph which illustrates the relationship between the number of painters and the time taken. Okay, now I did have a graph somewhere here. Let's have a look at it. No, I don't have my graph here. So I'm just going to draw it roughly, and I'm going to say, right, if I were to have a rough sketch, now they would normally, in an exam, give you the set of axes, right? We would say this, that if I had one painter, he's going to take 300 hours. So this would be my hours, and this would be my number of painters. Cool. So one little painter needs so many hours. 3 painters, so there's 2, 3 painters need 100 hours. Okay? 5 painters need 60 hours. 10 painters over here need 30. Look what happens to my graph, folks. I'm going to have a graph that slants down like this. Okay, has a weird and wonderful curve. Now, there are 2 things I've got to point out. Number 1, this graph is never going to touch this line, okay, this set of axes. Why not? Because over here I've got one man. Guys, I cannot get less than one man, okay? I can't say, let's paint this, and we're going to get no one to do it. Go. And we wait. Guys, we're going to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. So when I look at my set of axes, this set of axes here, this line represents 0. This line over here represents 0. I've always got to have some painters. Now let's say, can this graph ever touch my horizontal line? Okay. Let's say we move this line all the way across the screen and we got 1,000,000 painters into this very little room. Okay, we need another 0 there. 1,000,000 painters in here, in this little space. Almost impossible. Would we still need time to paint this? Yeah, we would. But probably a millisecond. Because all we would do is we take our paintbrush and just go plop. And everyone would go plop, and there'd be 1,000,000 plops, which would cover the whole screen. But it would still take time. So we can never say that a job's going to take no time. So for this graph, I'm never going to cut my vertical axis, and I'm never going to touch my horizontal axis, okay? It's going to be slightly above all the time and slightly away all the time. Do we understand that? Great. Right. Let's have a look here. Workers are expected to work 8 hours a day, and they are paid as follows. 100 Rand a day, or part thereof, plus 20 Rand per hour. A further bonus of 200 Rand per person is paid after the job is complete. Let's have a look at this. What does part thereof mean? Part thereof means, guys, that if I work for an hour, I'm going to get 20 Rand. If I work for 5 minutes in that hour, I'm also going to get 20 Rand. So part thereof means any part of an hour, I'm going to be paid for it. Okay? So determine whether it's cheaper for the company to employ 3 people or to employ 10 people. Okay, let's have a look at this. If 3 people worked, how many days is it going to take? 3 people is going to take us 100 hours. Right. Now, how many days are there in 100 hours? Now, they can only work 8 hours a day. Okay? So we're going to say, well, let's take out our calculator, and let's say 100 hours divided by 8 is going to give us, here we go, 12.5 days, right? So we know we're going to need 12.5 days. "12 days, 8 hours, and 1 day, what's half a day? If a whole day is 8 hours, half a day is 4 hours. Agreed? Okay. So, what's our question saying? It's saying now, 3 people, we are paying them 100 Rand a day, right? Or part thereof. So if I work a whole day, I'm being paid. If I work part of a day, they've also got to pay me for part of that day. So if I work for 12.5 days, I'm actually got to be paid for 13 days. So if these 3 people are going to get 100 Rand a day, so it's 100 Rand times 13 days, which is going to be 1,300 Rand. Plus, they get 20 Rand per hour. They are each working 100 hours. So we're going to say that this guy also gets 20 Rand times the 100 hours, which is going to work out to being 2,000 Rand. But there's something else. There's a bonus of 200 Rand per person when they finish the job. So they're also going to get another 200 Rand. So how much is each person going to be paid? Well, each person is going to land up being paid 3,500 Rand. But that's for one person. How many people are we employing here? In this case, we're employing 3 people. So I'm going to multiply that by 3. So I've now got a total of 3,500. And we're going to multiply it by 3. And there's our answer, 10,500 Rand. So 10,500 Rand is what I'm paying my guys to help me paint if I only employ 3. What happens now, folk, if I employ 10 people? First of all, how long is it going to take them? 10 people is going to take 30 hours per person. So let's go through this again. 30 hours is how many days? Out comes our calculator. Oops, it came up and it disappeared, and there it is again. So we've got 30 hours worth of work. We're going to divide that by 8 hours a day, and we land up with 3 3/4 of a day, or 3,75 days. Now, if we're paying them for a full day or even part of a day, it means we're going to pay them for 4 days. So now, for 10 people, we've got 100 Rand a day, and we're paying them for 4 days. So we've got a total of 400 Rand there. We're also told that we're paying them 20 Rand an hour, and they're working 30 hours. So we're getting 20 Rand and for 30 hours, which is going to work out to being another 600 Rand. Then we're paying them each 200 Rand for completing the job. So they're getting another 200 Rand. So each guy here lands up getting 1,200 Rand. How many guys are there? They're not 3, they're now 10. If I multiply this by 10, guys, I'm going to land up having to pay out 12,000 Rand. So if I'm employing someone to paint something, okay, based on these tariffs, it's better for me to get 3 guys to do the job than 10. Because if I've got 10, I'm paying them out 12,000. If I've got 3, I'm paying them out 10,500 Rand. It's also nice for the individuals if they're only 3, because they'll each get 3,500 each instead of 1,200 each. Okay, sounds complicated, doesn't it? But you work your way through it. And remember, the important thing with this kind of question, folk, is do as much working as you can, because this question would be worth a lot of marks. And so there are a lot of part marks given. Hey, it's time for another ad break, and then we'll chat again. Welcome back, guys. What are we doing today? We're looking at really tough kind of questions that you could find in a paper too. Okay, we're going to look at a finance question that involves a lot of work. Let's have a look. Devin has just turned 18, and he has his eye on a classic second-hand vehicle, which he will use in order to get to university and back every day. The vehicle, with an engine size of 2,995 cc, is valued at 53,000 Rand. Due to the fact that Devin does not have that amount of cash, his parents agreed to pay for the vehicle by taking out a loan. The agreement of the loan is as follows. Right, 25% deposit, a 1-year loan agreement, 3,842 Rand and 50 cents per month, plus 231 Rand 85 admin fee every month. A once-off licensing, registration and delivery fee of 3,200 Rand. Determine the full amount the parents would have paid for the vehicle after the 12-month period. Sure. Guys, there's a lot of information given to you here and a lot of work. This question could be worth, well, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe even 12 marks. Okay. Let's go through all the stuff they've given us and make sure we use it. First of all, we're told we got to pay a 25% deposit. Let's find out, what is that 25% deposit? Well, we know our car cost 53,000 Rand, so the parents are taking 53,000 Rand and finding 25% of it. And they know that's the amount they got to pay up front before Devin can drive his car out of the garage. So we're going to take our calculator and say, right, let's find 53,000, and we're going to multiply that by 25%. Now, folks, we can push percent, or we can say 25 over 100 equals 13,250 Rand. So I know my car, before Devin can drive it out, parents have to put down a deposit of 13,250 Rand. Right, we've used the first fact. Second fact, it's a 1-year loan agreement. Why do they tell us it's 1 year, folk? How many months in a year? There are 12 months. So this is important to remember. So I know when I'm told my monthly repayments, it's for 1 month, I'm going to have to multiply it by 12. Next thing they told us is we are paying 3,842 Rand 50. Let's write that on our calculator. 3,842 Rand and 50 cents. Okay? And what are we doing with that? We are paying that every month. So we are paying the 3,842 Rand 50, and we're doing that every month. And remember, we said for 12 months. So times it by 12, and we're going to get an answer of 46,110 Rand. 46,110 Rand. Okay, next thing we got to use. There's an admin fee, right? Remember, people don't just lend you money. They charge you for that. So besides all the interest, they're also charging you admin, because they got to send you an account every month. They got to check that that money comes in. They got to pay people to do this work. So 231 Rand and 85 cents. So every month the parents pay the bank 231 Rand and 85 cents. Okay? And they are paying them that for how many months? For 12 months. So for 12 months, we're paying 231 Rand 85 cents. We multiply that by 12 on our calculator, and we're going to get an answer then of 2,782 Rand 20 cents. Cool. Have we used all our information? One more thing it says. A once-off. So we're not paying this every month. Not a chance, only once off, a licensing, registration and delivery fee of 3,200 Rand. 3,200 Rand is what the parents have to pay before they can take that vehicle out as well. Sure, there's a lot of money here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our calculator and we're going to add all this up. We've got the 2,782.20. We're going to add the 3,200. To that, we're also going to add the 13,250 Rand. 50. To that, we're also going to add our 46,110 Rand. And we're going to land up with an answer of 65,342 Rand 20 cents. Okay, that's how much that car has cost Devin's parents. Although Devin said, "Oh, Ma, Dad, I've seen a fantastic car, cost me 53,000 Rand," the parents go off to the bank, they pay a deposit, they pay the monthly installment for the vehicle, they pay the admin fee, they also pay an amount for registering the vehicle and putting a number plate on it, and the final amount, after 12 months, that vehicle has cost the parents 65,342 Rand and 2 cents. Guys, this looks like a lot of work. Let's have a look at it, okay? That's all the work we had to do for that sum. But as we broke it down, and how did I break it down? I broke it down by seeing what we were doing, okay? We had to have a 25% deposit. Yes, I did that. We had to know it was for 12 months or for a year. Yes, I did that. I had to know it was so much a month. I did that. I had to know admin fee. I did that. I had to have a once-off fee. Got that. So I've used all that information, used it all in my calculation, and got to that final answer. And remember, even if I'm not sure what to do, folks, by doing bits and pieces, I'm going to pick up marks. So the examiner would probably look at this and say, you know what? We're going to give a mark there because that person knew they had to find 25% and they did it correctly. This person knew he had to multiply this monthly fee by 12 and he did it correctly. He knew he had to take the admin fee and multiply it by 12 and he did it correctly. He knew he had to add that figure, and you know what? He's added that correctly. Well done. A total of 8 marks. So even if there's one thing you don't know, let's say I forgot to add that monthly figure. Here it is. Guys, all I'm doing is I'm losing 1 mark. Okay, so I could still get 7 out of 8 or 6 out of 8. Always answer the questions. Never leave anything blank, no matter how tough it is. Well, folks, today we've looked at a lot of tough questions, and the whole idea behind it is to show you how to approach those questions, not to panic, but to attempt every single one of them. All right. Everything of the best for your finals, and I'm sure we'll meet again on the air before you write.